What is going on, guys? Stefan here with you, S&E's Garage, and today we are in the shop with this absolute time capsule of a car. So what we have here is a 2014 Toyota Camry with the 2.5 liter 2AR FE 4-cylinder engine and the U760E transmission. This is probably one of Toyota's most reliable modern 4-cylinder engine transmission combos to date. This engine was used in the Camry from 2010 all the way until 2017, and we really didn't see any major issues with these. They were actually really reliable. Other than the occasional cam phaser rattle on a cold start, they really didn't give much problems. And even if they rattled on a cold start, if it only did it for 2 or 3 seconds, you were good to go. You just let it ride, and they will quite literally run like that forever. So let's just take a walk around this thing. You'll see it is actually in really good shape. Like I said, this is a 2014 with right around 35,000 miles on it. That means it was driven between 3,000 and 4,000 miles per year, which is absolutely nothing. We do have a little blemish here on the taillight. That is not really that big of a deal. That can be replaced. That is rather easy to fix. But otherwise, the body is pretty straight. There is a couple of little nicks on the front bumper, but again, the car is absolutely flawless otherwise. And it is one of my favorite colors. If you're familiar with our channel, you'll know that we have 2 silver Lexuses, so I'm kind of partial to this. Let's just go ahead and take a peek in the interior. Sitting in this car, it still smells new and it still shows new. It is in absolutely phenomenal shape. Let's go ahead, flip the key on, and you can see 35,922. Now, this vehicle was brought in by a mutual friend of mine. They actually just purchased this car. Their previous car was actually a 2024 Hyundai Tucson with an IVT, or Hyundai's version of the CVT transmission. And they just had so many problems with that car that they actually had it lemon lawed, and Hyundai bought it back. So rather than go ahead and blow a bunch of money on something else new that he might not like, he went ahead and bought the tried and true Camry. And you cannot go wrong with this car, especially for the mileage. This is a phenomenal car, and if maintained well from here on out, this car will go up into the 2s and possibly even 300,000 miles if maintained correctly. And that is going to be where we come in. So the owner of this car asked me, if this were your car, it doesn't have many miles on it. By mileage, it's not due for any service, but it's 10 years old. Fluids, even though they're not being used, do wear out. Coolant becomes acidic. Transmission fluid starts to build moisture in it, also can become acidic. And brake fluid especially is hygroscopic. It absorbs and holds moisture. So they are all things you need to be aware of when you're buying a lower mileage, older vehicle. Just because it's got no miles on it does not mean it doesn't need service. So we are going to be doing several things with this car. First and foremost, we're going to be servicing the cooling system. With some Toyota Super Long Life coolant, we are sticking with original fluids. I always recommend original fluids, especially on these cars. Manufacturer knows best. Next, we're going to be doing a transmission drain and fill, again, with some Toyota Lexus WS Trans fluid. Again, original equipment fluids. Stick to them, the car will be happy. It'll have a nice, long service life. And last but not least, we are going to be doing a brake flush. We are going to be using some DOT4 Brembo brake fluid. Brake fluid is one of those services, or one of those fluids that you don't really need to stick to original equipment. Original equipment on this car is DOT3, so we are going to upgrade to DOT4. It has a little bit of a higher boiling point, and it is backwards compatible, so you will have no issues with transferring, swapping the fluids. So we're not going to be doing all 3 services to this vehicle in this video. This is just an introduction to the car. Like I said, we're going to go ahead, check it out, give it a good once over for this customer, and we're going to make sure it doesn't need anything else that's going to trump these services. If we find something that needs to be repaired, we might end up doing that first. But let's go ahead, let's get it up in the air. We're going to go about waist height And we're going to check some things. You know, we're going to check the struts, we're going to check the tires, we're going to try to check the brakes from through the wheels if we can. If not, we'll pull the wheels, and let's just give this thing a really nice once over and see what kind of car this gentleman purchased here. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead, we're going to peek in here, we're going to take a look at our struts. Our dust boots are not torn or ripped, and we do not see any oil of any type dripping down the shock. Usually you know, if they're leaking, you'll see it dripping down the body of the strut, and we don't see that here. Let's come back here and check the same thing. This dust boot, good shape, not ripped, not torn. We have no oil. All right, let's come back here. Dust boot, nice shape, no oil. Everything's good here. And last but not least, dust boot, no oil, everything's cool. So now I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna put you down. And we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna give the front end a nice shake. We're going to shake it at the 9 and 3 and the 12 and 6 positions. This is going to check several things. We're going to be checking the tie rods and the ball joints, and we're also going to be checking the hub bearings. And everything here feels nice and sturdy. Let's go ahead. Let's wheel you over to this side. We're going to do the same thing. Give it a nice shake. Everything feels good. So the next thing we're going to check through here is the brakes. There is actually a ton of meat on these front pads, or at least on this side. There is a ton. Let's go ahead and check this side. Again, these pads literally look like they're new. While we're under here, we're going to look at the axles. I don't see any leaks coming from these axle boots. There are no rips, no tears. This oil pan is absolutely dry. Let's check up top by our timing cover. They're notorious for leaking on these. And I don't see anything here. There's a little bit of oil residue here on this oil filter. I'll wipe that down. That might just be from a dirty oil change. I have to tell them to keep an eye on that. Here at our rear main seal, you'll see it is nice and dry. That is good. Transmission pan is dry. This is going to be being serviced, like we said. Everything, you drain it and you adjust the fluid from there, and then you fill it from up here. We'll get to that in another video. We're gonna go ahead, check our driver's side axle. Feels good. A little bit of leak there at that sway bar end link. Let me go ahead and give that a yank, make sure it's tight, and it is. Let's do this side. Nice and tight. No boots torn on the ball joints or the tie rod ends. Everything up here appears to be in fantastic shape. This exhaust is in great shape. This rust here is common in the salt belt, unfortunately, here in New Jersey. Exhaust's always rust. It's just the name of the game, but everything here looks good. Let's go ahead and check our back brakes, and they also appear to be in excellent shape. There's like 7 or 8 millimeters left on all 4 corners, so this by no means needs brakes, and everything under here appears good. Even these tires, they're like brand new. Let's go get a tread depth gauge and check the tires. So let's see what we got here. Wow, we have 10-30 seconds here, 10-30 seconds here, 10-30 seconds, and 10-30 seconds. So all these tires are wearing nice and evenly, and like I said, the dealer probably just put these on because they look brand new. But for a 10-year-old car under here, there's literally, for New Jersey, there's no rust. This subframe is nice and straight. You'll see here's the little bump out for where you jack the car up from the center if you ever have to jack it up in the back. Our brake lines here and fuel lines, everything looks good. And up here, again, here's that bump out for the front where you would jack it up from the front. So overall, I think our customer bought a fantastic car. I think it's in great shape mechanically, and it really doesn't need any repairs. Everything here is good. It just needs some deferred maintenance. So with that being said, if you want to see more on this car, please like, share, subscribe. Like I said, we're going to be doing several services to this: transmission, coolant, and brake fluid. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss this. We'll see you next time.